Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Crisis on Earth X crossover. Obviously, really quickly going to break a lot of things down. Obviously, this is going to be covering the entirety of the crossover, so I'm going to be talking about everything individually, episode by episode, but obviously, this is a two-night event, so obviously the Supergirl and Arrow part, obviously I'm recording on Monday night, and obviously Flash and Legends will be recorded on Tuesday night. Like always, when it comes to these type of things, typically what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to break it down episode by episode, and if there's anyone in particular, you're just I just want to know your thoughts about this particular episode, this and that. Obviously, always, when I'm talking about more than one show, I will include in the description down below the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows in this whole crossover. So that's just, kind of getting that out of the way. So first off, I'm going to talk about Supergirl. Fantastic opening to this. Immediately love the fact is we get a little taste of Earth X. They say X. I don't think it's a situation Earth 10. I think it's supposed to be X as in it's one of the many worlds out there. So this, for all we know, this could be Earth 999 for all we know. I think that's what it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to actually mean Earth 10. Maybe it is. Either way. It seems like it's a very Nazi controlled world, which I always like that thing. I like the fact is they do we've seen it a little bit so far, when it comes to the Flash, because Flash is the show that really focuses the most. Obviously, Supergirl to a certain extent. Obviously, the whole crossover between the whole multiverse situation, where it's certain worlds have certain aspects to them, where it's like Earth 2's a little more, I don't know. It's kind of a blend of a lot of technology, and it almost had a 1920s feel to it to a certain extent. It's each different Earth has its own thing. So this one is this is a history where I guess Nazis kind of won. So we saw Jimmy getting killed at the beginning by the Earth X Arrow counterpart. So far this episode was fantastic all around, because it captures that feeling of getting everyone together. You have Kara and Alex coming to Earth 1 for the wedding, and I also love her fighting Indominators. You're so last year, and just that and I love that every particular show their city, obviously Central City having a Flash boat, and obviously Star City having the bow, and the Legends being in London looks like the Legends. I just love that they did that, each one doing their respective things. Barry fighting King Shark, Oliver fighting ninjas in this whole situation. Obviously the Legends in the past, Robin Hood, and you have Sarah being not quite. So much good, amazing stuff went down. First of all, let's talk about the action. I love, dude, especially things really got good in the wedding. You had that moment where you have Wally catching all those arrows, kind of doing, bullets, and doing all those spins and turns. I'm you're just showing off at this point, and then throws one of the bullets back into the gun and make it explode. You have Alex and Sarah kind of being the badasses they are. Team, we don't have powers, but we're still kicking ass over here, which I definitely want to dive into that when I start talking about the other aspects. But it's so many good, Cisco using his powers, and I love the fact is of how Mick reacts when he sees Caitlin turn into Frost, and it's well, now that's more like it. Also love the fact that she made her entire arm into an icicle. It's like I say, it's every time I turn around, Caitlin's doing more and more stuff as Frost. It's just so interesting to me. And I also still appreciate the fact is there is still that dual personality. It's not a bad guy and good person. It's just kind of two different people. It's almost very similar to Firestone, when you actually think about it. I never really thought about that till obviously now that every woman in the same show. It's right, you do see that kind of comparison. I thought that was kind of interesting. Oliver, Cisco using his vibe powers. Oliver kind of jumps into the breach and just ends up on top of there to fight the other Archer from the Earth X, and it was so good all around. Everyone working together, fighting. Kara, I love how she ends that a sonic clap, and it's not just it affected the Earth X Kara. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. At this point in time, everything, so I don't know why I'm trying to. Anyway, because I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be all over the place with these, but that was so sick. I was I love that, dude. That was so sick. God, okay, so many things to talk about in this episode. Okay, for one, let's go back to it. Alex and Sarah, it's oh wow, I was The moment they sit beside each other, Bar was like, "Oh my god, that's like that could totally be a thing." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that. Didn't even cross my mind." Because for Kara and Alex, it's like they're both single. They're kind of in their awkward situations when it comes to their relationships. Obviously, her and Maggie, Alex and Maggie, the whole wedding being called off, and for Kara, Monel's back, and it's just that's super awkward. So, but Alex and then like Sarah, like hardcore making out outside when things are going on, and then like and you have Alex waking up beside her and she feels so bad about it, and then they're heading to the wedding and she's wearing something. She's like, why is it so bright? You know, it's like, did it not have clouds on this earth? And it's like, where were you at? I was like, what? I was jogging, making excuses. You never see Alex like that because Alex is usually the calm, composed person. It's actually interesting too because it's like that's what I love about this crossover, because you get to meet characters where you realize like Alex and Sarah are very similar. Both of them super badass, like fighters and very skilled. And you have Sarah being like, "Oh my god, are you okay? Like I heard you falling off the bed. Like is your butt okay?" And it just Alex like, and then Alex not even knowing Sarah's name, she's like, "Sarah, right, Sarah." It's so funny. And then when Cara hears that whole conversation and she's just smiling and she's like, and Alex feels so bad about it. She's like, I'm such a terrible human being. I'm like a guy. I don't do, you know, because it's like, it's so, like I said, because it's so not like Alex. It's like, this is like her first one night stand. I mean, I don't remember, like, I'm sure they brought it up last season, but like, to my recollection, like, Alex has never really been in a lot of relationships. I think Maggie might have been her first. I don't think that was necessarily her first, but it was just like, at least, obviously, his most prominent relationship, obviously. But it's just like, for her, that was never her thing. I guess it's just for her. She's like, I had one night stand. It's like, what's wrong with me? I'm a terrible person. And Cara's like, no, you're fine. You're single. You're just having fun. You literally had a one night stand on a different earth. That's next level. That's something that should be like, that's super cool. I feel it's so funny seeing Alex so embarrassed by it and everything. Obviously, there's a whole conversation between Kara and Barry about the whole love situation. It's like, well, Barry can relate to some of the situations, and it's like, oh, except he's back and he's married. Mono's married to someone else, and it's just like, because it's like, obviously he had to talk with Oliver about the whole love thing. It's like, oh, I gotta make you believe in love again. But obviously Kara's still doing the whole situation. I'm like, well, you know, she wants to give up being Kara, you know, Danvers, but then there's that side of things. It's just like, it makes her like remember, and it kind of makes her hurt all over again. So, you know, it's like Barry and Iris, it's like, you guys are match made in heaven. It's like, you guys are also humans, so that's a different thing. Which is interesting too, because it's like, it sucks because it's like Barry and Iris are literally like the story. It's like, oh my god, like this was like meant to be. And so it's got to be a little hard on everyone's respective situations, because I mean, obviously Joe kind of did that amazing toast to them, and it's just like, you made me believe in love again. It's like, oh, he's got Cecile and everything, and it's just like, had these two amazing children in his life. You know, it's like a stop it, Jesse L. Martin, just stop it. Why you gotta put so much emotion? Why you gotta be such a damn good actor to make you want to, like, every time he says some stuff like that, some emotional stuff, it makes you want to tear up and cry. It's like, stop it, Jesse L. Martin. Be a worse actor. I don't want you to be a good actor, because you're too good at that, and you're gonna make me cry when you do stuff like that. It always happens, but nevertheless. I also appreciate the fact that he got Cara to sing at the wedding, because he's like, oh yeah, that thing you can do that no one else. And I was like, what's he referencing? And I'm like, right, the musical crossover last season. Barry's the only one that knows that Cara is like a really good singer. Maybe Alex does too, but like amongst everyone, no one knows that that's under her belt. It's like a skill that she has. God, it's so good. You have Mick just being Mick, walking around naked, and it's like, oh yeah, Professor, your daughter was like, yeah, I need to stop walking around naked, so she gave me one of your bathrobes to wear. So that's interesting. Then also like, oh, where are you going to sit at the wedding? Well, I've tried to kill Barry so many times, so it's like, I'm sure there's going to be a little awkward, so I'll sit on the bright side of things. Which he's beside Sing and Cecile, which is like, I hate cops. And then it's like, I hate lawyers too. I also love the fact is, I think like Sing does notice, and he's like, oh, that's someone from work. He's like, not really. At first I was like, who's the guy beside him? I'm like, right, that's Sing's husband, isn't it? Have we met him before the show? Maybe we have, I don't remember. Is that his husband or his boyfriend? I think, no, I think it's his husband. But I was like, right. It's like, he knows, but I guess he's kind of letting it slide, because it is kind of like, you know, Mick is kind of a well-known criminal in Central City, so. I was also wondering about that too, because you see everyone fighting. I'm like, you're literally showing off your powers. Why aren't you worried about that? Oh, right. the Legends had the power to literally wipe everybody's memory. Never mind. I was like, we don't even have to worry about that anymore. Never mind. Because everyone's in regular clothes. I'm like, there are moments where Barry has stopped moving. So it's like you can see him. Plus you see everyone else using their powers. You literally saw Stein and Jax turn into Firestorm in front of everybody. So I was like, what? I was like, I guess we're just going to, okay, never mind. Like that makes sense. Also, the fact is that Kara has a device that lets her go through breaches. Didn't know that. Are those still called breaches? I'm not sure. Because I always call them breaches, but I don't know the proper term for like the portals that open up that let you go to different worlds. I don't know what to call them. They've always been breaches, so I just refer to them as breaches. I guess because to me, like after the whole season 1 situation, season 1 going into season 2, that whole breach situation, I believe, Nevertheless, I'm rambling on, so I'd apologize. It's so interesting. I was like, oh, is someone going to come to Earth like 38 and come get them? It's like, no, they can go themselves, which is cool because that's a nice touch because it means to me in my brain, it's like, oh, that means they can literally come to any other Earth anytime. I did forget that did happen in, the crossover, musical things that I was mentioning earlier. It's like, I forgot how they actually did that. Like, no. Like, I think Wynn had to set that whole thing up to make it so that it could. I think that's what that whole situation is. So I guess, like, the last time they were there, which was that, I guess, like, he was like, oh, yeah, here's a device. Maybe they made that part of the episode. I don't remember. It's actually kind of interesting, too, because that crossover was all about love and them kind of, the relationships and everything. And now it's like, well, Kara and Mon-El are in a situation they're in, so it's kind of depressing. Because the sad thing is, because Kara's probably like, out of anyone there, I think Kara probably has the biggest heart, And she looks at it as a disadvantage, but I think that's what makes her one of the most compassionate people amongst everyone, So, what else went down? Obviously, things are awkward between Felicity and Oliver because the whole conversation came up about, oh, you're going to get married or whatever. Felicity is like, well, there's a whole situation that's going down in Arrow with Oliver potentially being indicted, which I'm surprised he could go to Central City. Like, obviously, that's something we're kind of like, but it's like, I'm surprised. I guess as long as he doesn't leave the country, he's fine. But I thought it was kind of, I don't know. I just thought, I think it's going to be that situation of like, when you actually break it down, like, geologically speaking, these cities aren't that far from each other, so. But, you had, like, Barry talking to Oliver about it. And it's like, you love her, right? At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, there's always going to be something with us. This is kind of our occupation. It's like, there's always going to be something, other new bad guy around the corner. But it makes it so much easier when we have the people we love. So, and it's like Oliver being like, I'm supposed to be the mentor, and here you are. And it's like, yeah, it shows you how much Barry's kind of grown. I mean, to be fair, Barry's kind of done a little, I don't know if you really necessarily call his time in the Speed Force growing, especially because we still haven't gone back to that situation of like what went down with his whole brain and him being scrambled like that, whether that really means something or not, which I think it does because the whole thinker thing, but obviously that's going to be more so for when we get back to the like regular scheduled show and not just necessarily the crossover. Obviously Felicity's kind of against it, which she's saying like, I'm wondering if it might have something to do with her own particular situation. I mean, because the thing is, her and Oliver were going to get married before back in the season 4, but then it's like that kind of got called off, and maybe that she's afraid of that because for her it's like we like each other, we love each other. Like let's just leave the relationship as it is. We don't need documents to kind of prove that love. It's like to her the problem is the legal side of things. I don't know whether it's like Felicity has, the way it seems is almost like Felicity has like a secret that she doesn't want, or it's like, maybe it's just a situation of she's scared to get married. Kind of interesting because it kind of coincides with like Barry and Iris too, because it's like, obviously it broke down in this episode, but every time, like their weddings, like every time, like they brought it up before, it's like every time they get ready to get married, something else comes up. When it's supposed to be their time, something comes up. In this case, it's this attack. Which, interestingly enough, I thought it was kind of interesting because I immediately could tell by the way he reacted when he was like, no, but Oliver from Earth X and Kara from Earth X. I'm wondering about that. And also, we see it, and we have Reverse Flash, who looks like Wells. So I'm assuming that's still Eobard, but in this world, he never had to give up his whole appearance of Wells. Like, he was never found out. Because we don't see Barry in this world, so Barry might be dead in this world. Maybe like Eobard took his speed or something and maybe decided to stay. Like we still haven't really broken down like how that whole situation works. At least in this part, obviously, like this is me talking about Supergirl. I have to wait till like at this point in time I haven't watched the Arrow one yet, so maybe talk about that soon enough, which is going to be later on this tonight when I'm recording this, and maybe things beyond that. So you get what I'm saying. I do apologize. Like I said, once again, I'm all over the place. And also there's the whole situation with Jax as well as Stein, because of the whole situation of like, oh, we can help with the whole power thing. You had Cisco and Wells helping, and also Caitlyn, even though at the beginning she didn't really get any credit for it, but she played a big part in that too, of helping figure out like a formula of being able to take away the powers. At first I was like, whoa, take away the powers. I thought the whole point was just to make it so that Jax alone would be able to keep the powers. But I was like, maybe not. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. So it's like, oh, they can be normal again. But obviously Stein kind of tinkered with it to make it so it's like, okay, you can get powers. And it's like, oh, you can be, I'll cross you with a spider. It's like, oh, I can be like Spider-Man. It's like, no, he can be Spider-Man, but without all the abilities. The only ability he gets is stickum powers. It's like, oh, you can crawl on walls. It's like, really? And obviously Jax wasn't happy about that. My only assumption can be that it's because Jax wanted to save Firestorm because he likes being Firestorm, because I think it's also a reminder of, Stein. Like, even if he has a power all himself, that they're still a part of Stein with him, because preferably for him, if he could, he wouldn't want this team broken up, because he wants to fight beside Gray the entire time, but it's like, he understands that Gray has his life waiting for him, and it's just like, I think it's just him. For him, it's like, you think you know what I want just because we share this telepathic link. But the fact of the matter is, it's like you still don't get it, So to him, it's not just about having the superpowers. He wants to be Firestorm, I think. I mean, I am curious, like I said, I've brought that up before, like how that whole situation is going to work, especially now we're throwing in the possibility of getting different abilities, like what that means. I don't know. Like I said, this is a fantastic start to the crossover. Like, obviously, it's mainly a lot of character interactions, which I love, that's all I need. If you wanted to, you can make like 95% of it like that. Obviously, I'm joking. Like, obviously, you need a little, but still, it's just like, I love the interaction between these characters, because you don't get to see them like overall interact with one another. So I'm curious to see how that all like works and goes about, so, because I'm very interested to find out about these different like connections between the different characters. Like, why, like, obviously the person they have locked up is Prometheus. It's like, well, why is Prometheus still alive? Well, why is Prometheus and Oliver working together? Like, how this whole thing works. What about, like, well, because then you get into the whole Eobard situation. And it's like, well, that's time travel on a different Earth, and that gets complicated. And then again, like, the Mono kind of went through that too. So it's just an interesting thing. Like, I'm curious to learn more about Earth. It's like what their plan is. Is it like, oh, let's take over the multiverse? It's like, we rule this world. Well, let's kind of spread all over into another world. It's so weird thinking about like some of your superheroes being essentially Nazis. That's super weird to think about. So, like I said, a great, fantastic start to the crossover. So obviously this is just kind of ending my thoughts here on Supergirl. So let's see hear what I had to say about the Arrow part of this crossover. And now moving on to the Arrow part of this crossover, continuing the awesomeness. We learned a lot more about this whole Earth X situation. Let's break a lot of stuff down. It makes sense to me, I guess, that there's 52, like the whole 52 and DC and everything. But like, I thought it was just kind of like the whole infinite thing. So, I mean, maybe it's a situation where it's like only 52 or no, but it seems that Earth X isn't like, I was like, oh, maybe it's 10, or maybe it's supposed to represent 999. It's like, no, it's supposed to represent planet Earth 53, which is the Earth that pretty much, it's kind of like the multiverse's dirty little secret that no one's stupid enough to go there or crazy enough to visit there. So that's why the whole X, I guess, is to be like, do not go to this Earth. It's like, I mean, I guess they make it, I mean, it must be super hard to get to it, like over the course of the entire multiverse or something like that. But obviously, as you can pretty much surmise, as the beginning, or like the first episode I showed, is like, it's a world where Nazis won in World War II, and a lot of stuff happens. It's interesting to a certain extent. Like, it's not like Hitler. It's like, oh man, he's the most amazing, because you even have Kara being like, Oliver is 10 times the man Hitler was, and it's kind of like, it's like, I mean, you get the compliment, but at the same time, it's like, that sucks. That has to suck being compared to Hitler. Also, the fact is that Kara and Oliver in that world are married, which I love Kara's response. Gross. And then she looks at Oliver. I mean, No offense. I also love the fact is, yeah, Barry like dashing there to the fight, and you have Kara flying there, and then you're waiting a couple seconds. I'm like, what are they waiting for? And they have to wait for Oliver to show up in a bite. It's like, okay, keep this in mind. No super speed. I'm like, it's so awkward being the one without the powers or any like. At least the legends might not have powers in some regards, like in case of Sarah, but at the very least, she'd have the Wave Rider to get there on. But it's like, poor Oliver, dude. It's just, to me, it's one of those situations. I think it's kind of like almost that situation of like, you literally have Batman surrounded by all these superheroes with powers and abilities. I mean, to be fair, but Batman kind of shows himself to be like, well, I'm tough on my own, so I don't necessarily need it. It's still that situation of like, Oliver can handle himself nevertheless, but... Aside from that, obviously, the fact is Prometheus being Tommy, did not see that coming. I like that twist. I was like, oh man, he's got to confront Jace again, Adrian Chase again. But it's like, nope, it's Tommy, which makes that situation even worse because it's like, here's my friend, my best friend, a guy that's like a brother to me. And he almost pulls Oliver in. It's like, oh, but my family back home, and he's like, I'm messing with you. You're weak and pathetic. Did not see him killing himself either. I was like, wow. I mean, to be fair, I guess that also coincides with the fact is the actor who's playing Tommy is currently on Chicago Med, so it was like he's probably super busy. It probably took a lot of finagling to get even that to happen, that scene. Probably just like busy schedule and stuff like that. But I really appreciated it. I really liked it. It's actually kind of interesting too. I didn't even think about it while I was watching it. He actually came across Tommy in the crossover last season too, in the Arrow aspect, because when they were trapped in that like Dominator created world, I thought that was kind of interesting now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, it wasn't Tommy, but it was just kind of a situation of like representing Tommy essentially. But nevertheless, I love our little like suit up thing at the end where it's just like you got Alex, you got Kara, you got Firestorm, you got Green Arrow, you got White Canary, got the Flash, and it's just like everyone's suiting up and get ready to fight. It's like, that's so good. And just seeing them doing their best to take down all those Nazis, kicking some serious ass all across the board. Literally the entire fight, you have Barry and Reverse Flash dashing all around the entire fight. Kara and the other Kara flying around. Interestingly enough, did not expect it. That's freaking Earth 1 Reverse Flash. And I guess in retrospect, it's like, well, kind of makes sense. I feel like if it was from a different Earth, he wouldn't be having those colors. I should have figured that was a key sign, but that's so interesting to me. It's like, man, you just don't know when to stay dead. You died in season 1. I mean, to be fair, he popped up in season 3, and that's the whole situation. So once again, it's a whole timeline situation. But it's like, you died in Legends. Shouldn't you be dead now? Because it's like, that seemed like that was the end of you. But it's like time travel. It's like, maybe it hasn't caught up to, I don't know, like, maybe technically what the Legends did, maybe with the whole situation of what they did, technically none of that happened. Maybe that's what that's supposed to mean, like, what they did to Eobard wasn't killing him, which we thought with the whole Spear of Destiny situation, it would have, but I don't know. Maybe all of that stuff concerning the Legion of Doom erased all of that, so he kind of went back to his own time and none of that ever happened. I'm guessing it gives you a headache, which kind of hits Barry hard too, because it's like, not only are you back, you're also wearing the face that I come to know you as. It was the first face he ever saw with Barry. So that's why I was just like, oh, this is Eobard from like that Earth, but he stayed looking like Wells. I didn't know why he would bother, but still, it's so fascinating. It's like, I mean, I guess it also shows you, too, his dedication to everything, because it's like he hates Barry so much, he's willing to join up with Nazis just for the fact of being able to just take over this world and kill Barry. It's like, oh, you've had to kill me so many times. It's like, Barry, all I got to do is kill you once. It's like, really? I'm fine with it because it's like, I like Reverse Flash. He's like, but he's just an illness that will not go away. He's literally the only speedster that Barry has constantly come in contact with. But to be fair, it makes sense because it's like, he is Barry's ultimate adversary. Not only is because he's like the opposite of Barry, Reverse Flash and everything, but also because he's the one, their destinies are so heavily intertwined. There's no breaking that, So I think that's, it's just like, it's that light and darkness that this fight is always meant to be. It will always be, no matter what time, no matter what world, like there will always be the Barry and Eobard situation. So I guess that might be his main reason for doing all of this, because he needs an army by his side to kind of help him take down Barry. So, because it turns out that this is all about helping Earth X Kara because she's sick. Apparently she absorbed too much solar radiation, which is kind of an interesting thing too. It's kind of going back to what I've brought up before. I forgot it was like this season or last season, but nevertheless, it's something I think it was this season, because the whole aspect of like Kara not being able to breathe in space, that's something that came up in season 1. The fact of the matter is, it's like Kryptonians should be able to. I think comic book wise, like Clark has definitely done it, I think. And it's a situation of they get stronger from solar radiation. So I'm guessing that, or am I confusing that with something else? Like, they get their powers from the sun. Is it solar radiation that gives them their powers? Yeah, I'm not being stupid about that, right? So she compares herself to Icarus because she's like, I flew too close to the sun. So it's probably a situation of she boosted her powers like crazy, but it had ramifications. So it seems like this is just like the CW. It seems like in this like canon, in this continuity, it's like Kryptonians' powers, they're not like, I think it's to kind of prevent them from being too overpowered, that they make them have limitations. Like the fact is can't breathe in space. So, and the fact is too much solar radiation, it's a bad thing. Like from my limited experience, from my understanding, it shouldn't have one. It's like it should make them super strong, and that's that. But maybe maybe she did it multiple times over and over again, pushing her body to the limit that a Kryptonian just can't handle, you know? So maybe that's what that is. So, because she even kind of makes a comparison between her and, you know, Earth 38 card. Like, you're literally a god and you're just so weak, you know? You have so much wasted potential. It's kind of what this whole thing is about. It's like, you're up here, you're so weak, you're so pathetic, you're letting your hearts control you and stuff like that. So I also appreciate the fact of the matter is so much. One, the fact is that Rory didn't go. The reason why he didn't go is because he completely missed the point. Like, everyone's suiting up and everything. It didn't even cross my mind. Right, Rory didn't go. It's like, I understand why Caitlin didn't go, because it's like, well, it's just kind of like, well, she's kind of like more the brains of the operation too. She's one of the smart people, so it's like, oh, let's help out and everything. And then lo and behold, it's like, oh, I'm here. Wait, there was something, I was supposed to go somewhere, because he was too busy looking for mustard for his sandwich. I also love the fact that he's trying to get Caitlin to turn back into Frost. He's like, oh, trying to scare her. And she's like, no, go. It's like, which is interesting too, because I didn't even bring this up about the Supergirl thing. The fact is, you know, him being Heatwave and her being Frost, like them being polar opposites. Would that be something that kind of goes for? Considering the fact is, Frost is kind of like the bad girl, like just kind of like like Frost is almost like a rebellious teen. It's like you have Caitlin being like, essentially the responsible, like, and you can almost make it like a sister, or at the very least you can think of it more so in the perspective of like going back to, well, sisters would probably be a good comparison, just to kind of not have to worry about the whole psychological angle of it. But it's like Caitlin is like the more responsible sister, while Frost is more like the rebellious, do what she wants type of sister. And obviously this is all in one person's head, so there's another situation. But I think that's just so fascinating. Also appreciate the fact is that Team Arrow showed up, that being Renee, Dinah, and Curtis. I mean, no surprise with no Diggle, because I'm sure he's still in the recovery process. So, okay, so there's a lot of things that kind of went down. We kind of got to understand everyone's positions a little bit more in this particular episode. Like, for example, Stein and Jax. I kind of had a feeling it was. I kind of hit it on the nail. The fact is, for him, it's the fact is he can't be Firestorm with Stein. Like, it's all hitting him. It's like he thought he'd be fine with it, but now it's like the reality is kind of setting in. And for him, it's like, you've been like a dad to me. I never knew my dad. He got to meet his dad that little bit in season 1, but even then, he doesn't really know his dad. His dad died before he really got a chance to know him. So for him, Stein's the closest thing he's ever had, and now Stein's leaving, and it's just like he's losing a part of his family. And it's like, because you also got to remember too, because of their connection, they are half of each other. So it's like he's losing a part of himself when Stein leaves. You know, even if the connection's broken, they've spent so much time in each other's heads, being able to feel and know what the other is thinking. You know, it's just kind of, well, not necessarily, well, not necessarily thinking, I'm wrong, but just at least they felt each other's hearts essentially. And it's just that bond being broken. It's just, that's what bothers Jax the most about this whole situation. Then you have Felicity and Oliver. Oliver still wanting to get married, but Felicity doesn't. And it turns out it is kind of a situation of, the fact is, of what they went through. For her, it's like, I don't want to jinx it. It's like the last time you almost got married. The fact of the matter is, she got shot. left her paralyzed. And it's just like, and also that situation was the beginning of the end for the relationship. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff. The whole Williams situation played a big part in that. But it was just, that was kind of like the catalyst that eventually set off all the domino effects that led to them breaking up. And it's like, we're in a good position. I don't want to mess with that. It's also the situation of like, why get complicated? We're good as we are. Can't we just stay there? But then it's turning into a situation very much like Maggie and Alex's situation, because it's like, we want two different things. Oliver wants to get married and Felicity doesn't. It's like, we saw what happened with Alex and Maggie's situation with that, wanting two different things. This is a little different, but at the same time, the same principle applies, because for Oliver, it's like, the fact is I want to get married makes me think that Felicity doesn't love me as much as I love her. But Barry's like, dude, I've known Felicity for such a long time. It's like, dude, she loves you. There's no doubt about that, especially because Felicity explained this to Iris. So she wanted to say something, but, you know, kind of got cut off. So, and since I'm talking about Oliver, I love the fact is that he pulled out the freaking, kryptonite era. I love that. And Carl's like, wait, why do you have that? He's like, you know, in case an evil you comes around. Like, after seeing what you were capable of in the crossover, especially when you were under control, and I'm sure it got in his head like, yeah, I need to keep that around. Which I also love that too, because that's typically a Batman thing, like, keeping kryptonite around, because, you know, it kind of plays into the whole aspect of like, well, Batman's no idiot. It's like, he doesn't kind of get caught up in the sentimental aspects of like, no, this is me being rational. I'm not saying I'd use it against you, but maybe a situation will call where I'll need it and I'll regret not needing it. Kind of plays a part in like season 2 with the whole situation around the fact is that John kept kryptonite around. It's like, side note too, really quickly, I just thought about that. Where the hell did Oliver get kryptonite? I didn't even think about that. Because Dominators are the only aliens we've ever met on Earth 1. So it's like, where'd you get kryptonite from? How'd you set that up? Did Star Labs, like, is that artificially made or something? Like, I didn't even think about that. How did you get kryptonite? I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's something that, you know, Harry brought up. Is like, well, there are 53 different Earths, 53 different Kryptons. So that's why this Earth has, obviously Earth X has, Kara, but then it's like, well, the fact of the matter is that means Krypton probably still to explode. So maybe it's kind of similar to Smallville, how like the whole meteor rock thing in Smallville storyline. Maybe that happened here, and that there is some around. I mean, maybe over the like years since the crossover, he's like, let me track down some kryptonite. Never know when that situation might come up again. So there's that. But it seemed like it didn't work on Earth X Kara when he fired it later on. I'm assuming, I guess, because she has some defense for it, or she's wearing something, or maybe she grabbed it before it activated. I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe because like, I can't really tell. It didn't. Maybe the arrow didn't have time to open up before it hit Kara, and she grabbed it before it opened up. So maybe that's what it is. Or like I said, or maybe she just had some protection from it. I also love the fact is that they threw in Metello too, and it wasn't like a skin Metello. It was like full on robot, like underneath cybernetics Metello. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I love them bringing back a villain we haven't seen him since like last season, and obviously this is a different version of him. So. I mean, this is most likely him from Earth 3, so... I mean, not Earth 3, Earth 53, sorry. And then obviously another relationship is the whole aspect about Alex and Sarah. The reason why that's so awkward for her, because it's like, for her, it's like, what she had with Maggie was real, and now it leaves her in a situation where it's like, well, now, like... It's like, oh, I was laughing about it last episode, but now you're kind of like, oh, I feel a little bad, because you see why it's hitting her so hard, because it's like, I had true love. I was really in love. I woke up with a woman. I was so happy I was going to marry her and everything. It was something real. Obviously, the whole thing was Sarah, and it just makes her feel bad, because it's like this is a thing, you know? And it's like, what I had with Maggie was real. It was real love and everything. So now it's like a situation of like, did I make the right choice? Maybe me and Maggie wanted different things, sure, but it's like, was it right for me to break up a relationship for that? And it's like, I ultimately say yes. And Kara kind of agrees too. It's like, you wanted different things from her. You wanted to have kids. It's like, you and Maggie were great together, but she did one fantastic thing, and that was making you comfortable with who you are. So I still stand by that. I was like, from the beginning, I was like, yeah, when that situation started happening in season 3 of like, oh, them wanting two different things, it's like, you need to break up, because it's like, the fact is, if Maggie's never going to change her mind, I mean, who's to say what the future holds? Maybe eventually Maggie will change her mind and be like, okay, I want to have kids, and maybe the relationship can get rekindled. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're going to do. It doesn't seem like Maggie's kind of like ever going to change her mind about that, because for her, it's like, Alex is enough, but Alex is like, I want more, you know? Once again, similarities between this and Oliver and Felicity's relationship, even though it's kind of a little bit different because, as I've explained, the differences, So basically, this episode ended off with our heroes in a very, very dire situation. Obviously, Alex, Sarah, Barry, and Oliver are stuck on Earth 53. Kara is about to be dissected for her heart. Most of Team Arrow, all of Team Arrow has been captured now. The only people left are Felicity and Iris, which there's other people, but obviously the Wave Riders off in the Stone Ages, as Jack says. So it's like, it's up to, they're the only ones still not incapacitated at this moment with like Nazi soldiers all around Star Labs. So I almost for a second thought they were going to do something with the whole Oliver coming there. Like, I didn't expect him just to go there to kind of kick ass. I thought he was going to go there and try to pretend to be himself. Like, I thought he was going to wear a very similar outfit, kind of be like a little subterfuge, but turned out not to be the case. I mean, granted, that could be something they possibly do later on, but we'll kind of have to, like, wait for it. It's kind of interesting, too, because this whole situation about Oliver and Kara is the fact is that, like, because of the current situation, is like you have Eobard being like, I don't know. He's so caught up in being in love with you, he won't make the right decision. Like, there's the mission, and then he cares about you. And she's like, well, if the time comes, I'll make the decision for. So basically, it seems like when the time comes, if he decides that if I'm kind of his love for me interferes with the mission, most likely either. I don't think it's going to be like an aspect of killing him. Immediately, my brain goes, well, she's going to kill herself to remove herself from the equation. That's my mind about it. Which is kind of, once again, it's like, it's kind of sweet, but then you remember the fact is they're Nazis, and then it's like, I guess Nazis have love? Not like, I don't know. The whole situation makes you a little awkward. I had no idea that was going to be the whole element behind this story. I thought it was going to, because something kind of like connected to Argus. I saw the suits and everything. I didn't see the swastika symbols and everything. It's like, oh, that's Nazis. That's rough. So I know, if you don't know, Nazis suck. I feel like I had to include that. Literally had that conversation when I was talking about Preacher. I was like, I kind of have to remind people, like, just in case you know, Nazis suck. I don't want that to be like, oh, you're cool with Nazis. It's like, nah, Nazis suck. I think everyone in this show can agree. It's like, we hate Nazis. I don't even bring it up in part one, but it's like, you had Oliver being like, Nazis. And then right beside him is Car, and they both say at the same time, I hate Nazis. To me, that seemed like that would have been something Mick would have said. But nevertheless. Has he said that before? They've come across Nazis on Legends. So I think maybe he has said that before. Nevertheless. I would also, was that kind of a side joke? Is that something I'm missing? Like, I guess it makes sense in Kara's case, because like Superman and Kara are supposed to be the all-American heroes, so it kind of makes sense for their respective situations. But I don't know about Green Arrow. Like, I don't know. I just thought that was just kind of interesting. I was like, maybe that's a side joke that I'm not getting. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's just like, no, we hate Nazis. But I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be like a comic book thing of like, oh, there's like a thing there. I don't know. Like I said, the awesomeness has continued. Obviously, we will be continuing this tomorrow night. I mean, technically, it's tonight at the time of me recording this. It's Tuesday now, but obviously tonight we had the part 3 and part 4, the Flash and Legends part of this crossover. So I'm very excited to see how this all plays out. And since I'm ending this here, why don't I pass this on to Future Me to tell us my thoughts about what went down in the Flash part of the crossover. And now moving on to the Flash part of the Crisis on Earth X crossover. Another fantastic part. I do love that we are on Earth X. Sadly, we don't get a big exploration of the world. We rarely do anyway when it comes to the whole multiverse situation. The only Earth we've ever really kind of explored, I mean, to a certain extent, is Supergirl's Earth 38. So, I mean, even then it's just National City, but still, like, this world we didn't get too much of a good look at it, like seeing all the different things. Like, Earth 2 is probably the closest thing, because we got to see some of the differences between the worlds and stuff like that, but nevertheless. I probably biggest surprise was the whole Snart situation. I actually forgotten that he was in this because I remember seeing him in the previews. I also appreciate the fact that his getup in this looks. I think it's more traditional to how he looks in the comic books. I think that's what they were going for, especially with like the goggles and like the white goggles that he was wearing like that. Like I was like, that's so cool. And they also introduced Ray, which I'm slightly familiar with that superhero. I feel like I remember him, but I just can't quite place him. I'm not that familiar with him, but he's played by the actor who played George on Being Human, the original UK version, which is kind of interesting because I literally did a video about Being Human that went up yesterday. Nevertheless, it just got kind of funny to me. Got so much interesting thing about this world. We did find out that the fact is that the person who runs it runs the kind of resistance which Ray and Snart are a part of, which you immediately kind of learned that this Snart is very different from our Snart to a certain extent, because there's a whole aspect about, oh, like the fact of the matter is Snart, our Snart kind of always thought like, oh yeah, forget the plan, never, always expect the plan to fail or whatever, and then Snart from Earth X is like, what are you talking about? I always have a plan down to the smallest thing, which is kind of interesting. That you have that very, very different perspective of just being like, yep, this is not the same person, but nevertheless, so much good stuff. When being in charge of it, it actually kind of makes sense. I think I completely forgot to talk about him. Was he was kind of the first death of the crossover was Guardian. I think his name is Rebel in this world, I think is what it was. But Jimmy, and it's like, well, it kind of makes sense that even in this world, there's still a duo, I guess. There's still a team. Never really dived into it too deeply, but I can only assume that, because obviously Jimmy was part of the Resistance, but it's actually kind of interesting too when you actually break it down and think about it, like, because on different Earths, they exist on the same Earth, because Kara, Jimmy, and Winn exist on a different Earth, and in comparison, but it's like on this Earth that all the characters are together, because even Oliver is there too, so it's just kind of interesting to me, like differences between the Earths and stuff like that. Obviously, when you break it down and think of it, I mean, it's just like, oh, different Earths have different people, different things. Nevertheless, I'm not going to go too crazy about that. It's so interesting to see Winn kind of in charge, and him kind of, it's not really him being a dick. It's just like, hey, and he puts something in a very good perspective of like, yeah, like, we're not going to let you go through, because it's like, we need to destroy this now while like most of the generals are away, with Oliver away. Still don't know why it never really clicked in my head he was the leader, that he's the Fuhrer. I don't know why. Like, they probably referred to him as that in the first two parts. It just went over my head. That's even more so why Kara made the comparison of like, oh, you're 10 times the man Hitler was, so. Once again, still kind of a sour taste in your mouth every time you have to say that. Ugh. Nevertheless, but for him, it's like they've been fighting this war for generations. Their fathers fought it. Their fathers' fathers fought it. Like, it's a generation battle, and it's just like doing whatever they can to win this. And it's just like you kind of forget about that. Like, this has been a continuous war for so long. So it's just kind of interesting that I didn't even think about that aspect to it. But I also thought it was kind of interesting that Snart was the one that was pushing for them, helping them out. And it's like, holy crap. I mean, once again, showing you the difference, because obviously the Snart we knew eventually became a very selfless person. But from the very beginning, Snart was always a selfish person of like doing things only for himself. But it's like, no, we need to help these people out. Like, they're trying to get back to the people they love. And he's like, with Ray, it's like, I love you. And if the situation were the same, I do it for you. Which is also interesting. The fact is that Ray is from Earth One as well, apparently, which is kind of interesting, which also begs the question of like, well, what are your powers exactly? Like, how did you get them? Like I said, he's not a hero that I'm that familiar with. Maybe, he's being set up, so it's like, maybe we'll potentially see him in the future. Like another person that popped up, lo and behold, freaking Red Tornado. I was like, what? If you don't remember season 1 of Supergirl, he made an appearance in one episode then, but it's never came about after that. I didn't, like, it looks like, it's definitely a different aspect to it, because like obviously that was more of like a person in a suit, and it looks like this was more, maybe it was an actor too, but it just seemed more computer generated. It looked like it was more on the same lines as Red Tornado from like the cartoons or the comic books with his design and everything. So I thought that's pretty cool. Love that Barry and Ray worked together to take. I was like, oh dude, that's so sick. He ended up exploding. So, I mean, could this be like, I'm curious though. I wonder why they picked specifically Red Tornado on anyone else, huh? I don't know, because could that be your way of kind of introducing Red Tornado into like the whole Arrowverse? Because I don't know if technically a lot of season 1 counts as still canon to the Arrowverse, because I think a lot of season 2 and stuff kind of backtracked a lot of that. I think not a lot of it, but some of it. Well, not even just season 2. Some of season 3 kind of backtracked some of that too. So that begs the question. It's hard to say what's canon and what's not anymore, because especially if they don't mention it, it's like, oh, maybe that's not canon anymore. But nevertheless, had to be weird for Sarah too, because she ended up meeting her dad, in which he basically admits that he ended up killing his daughter Sarah on Earth X for basically being who she is, being into both men and women. It's like, wow, that it has to suck because probably hasn't seen her dad for a while, and just having to see him under these circumstances. It might be different people, but it still doesn't change the fact that you're seeing this hate spew talk come out your own dad's face. Someone who looks and sounds just like your dad. Well, I mean, not exactly sounds like your dad, but, looks like your dad. So it's just, that's got to be rough. This episode also pointed out something too, that basically everything that happened has all been for the purpose. All this isn't just about spreading to other worlds. First and foremost, it was always about Kara. I was like, right. I was like, so getting her, like, Supergirl's heart was always the mission. That was the first and foremost, and then we'll spread to other worlds. You just got to make sure that the general's okay first. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And it has to suck for Kara too, because it's like, not only is she in her particular situation of like, where it comes to love and everything, she has to look at the most evil version of herself being in love as like, that has to suck. It's like, I'm in my situation when me and relationships don't work out, and here I am from another world. I'm the most evil person ever, and lo and behold, I'm in a relationship. It sucks. And that also brought up, again, that aspect that I love about Supergirl. It's just Kryptonians in general, is that whole aspect. And like I said, I brought it up before earlier this season, and when talking about Supergirl, because he did an episode similar to that, is how Earth X Kara was constantly bringing up the fact that, oh, you could be a god amongst these people, but for her, it's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to help people. And it's like, oh, that makes you weak. But it's just that whole aspect of like, they could be treated as gods if they wanted to be. And that's why she's one of the head people, because like, she is worshipped as a god, because no one can go against her, so there's a whole conversation between Alex and Sarah, who very similar. Is like, obviously Alex is scared for what's going to happen to Kara, but Sarah understands that, because it's like, she knows what it's like not being able to save your sister. It's like, we're not going to let that situation happen to you, especially because Sarah's situation is even more tragic, because she has time travel on her side, but she couldn't do anything about her sister's situation. So, and she also brought up something interesting too about the whole Maggie situation. It's like, she's like, I have my own Maggie, and it's like, sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I mean, I assumed that was her referencing Nyssa, but I was like, so that means there's still a part of you that cares for Nyssa too, like that you still have those feelings, like maybe you should still be with her. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, she's never really shown or has ever said anything to make it seem like she misses Nyssa, but I mean, to be fair, it's been a while since her and Nyssa whole thing. Wasn't the last time they were together was season 3, maybe? So it's definitely been a while. They haven't subsequently been together since she came back to life, did they? I don't think they have. I think that was, I mean, even before that, there was a whole contributing factor of like, even before that whole situation that I don't remember. It's been a while. So that was kind of an interesting thing, knowing that that's kind of where her mind and heart is about that whole situation. But it still kind of gets to the point of Alex being like, Nyssa, she's like, I'm stumbling on my words. I do apologize. Sarah is basically telling Alex, like, trust your instincts. If you felt like you did the right thing, then kind of go on with that, so. Like I said, kind of going back to what I was bringing up before about this whole Earth X situation, I would love to kind of learn where everyone was in this particular situation. Like, obviously, I'll kind of dive into it. Like, we learned a little bit, which I'll kind of dive into when it gets to the legend aspects of this. But nevertheless, I'm wondering where a lot of the heroes, or at least the characters we know, like where they are when it comes to this world and everything. A lot of people you can go, well, I kind of have a pretty good idea where certain people's situations are. It's not very favorable in some regards, so it's understandable. So, but nevertheless, I guess that's why they never dive too deeply into it, because it's like, well, of course this person will be here, and this person will be in this particular situation because of who they are and everything. It's like, of course, so I think that's one thing. But nevertheless, what's so sad too about this episode is the fact is that Stein getting shot, especially after him and Jax made up, the whole conversation of like, you are like a son to me, it's like, even before I had a daughter, I had you, and we spent so much time together. You are like a son to me. And it's like, you kind of he made Stein kind of feel like what it was really like to be in that direction of being a dad and everything. And it's just like, oh, it's like they made up and everything, and then later on Stein gets shot, and I'm like, no, I was like, please don't let that happen, please. And it does. I was like, dude, that sucks so much. It is like the most like, wait, what? Way to end that episode was for him to get shot. So, just because I don't want to end it off on a bummer talking about that, I also want to talk about the fact is I love that Cisco finally wakes up after being knocked out in part 1. And lo and behold, him and Harry going at it, just Harry just doing stuff to annoy him. Major props to Iris and Felicity for handling things, even though they were on their own, having their badass moments of taking the guns from him. It's like, yeah. I don't know why. It's almost like adorable when you see like Felicity kind of being a badass, because she's like, yeah, take that mother, and it's about to cut herself off. I was like, you're still awesome. They were able to save Kara, but sadly, Metello showed up and took them out of the equation. Well, captured them again. So, two other things I forgot to talk about too. One being the fact that they have a wave rider of their own. Didn't expect that twist. I was like, oh, that's, I guess they just built like how, okay, it just, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. I just did not see that aspect coming, which is kind of like, well, maybe that kind of, like, it seems like that might have been a more built thing, that they just built that, but it seems like that's probably what the prism was most likely for like, well, because that was supposed to be the weapon. They were supposed to be like being able to get like a neutron bomb or whatever. So I guess it was kind of channeled inside of the Wave Rider, or maybe it was all for the purpose of building the Wave Rider, which will kind of make their conquest even easier, you know, because it's like they could go to other worlds, travel back in time in those other worlds, and change history for the worse, you know. I also love this line between Kara and Eobard, where it's basically like saying that basically him doing what he's doing, that basically if he does something, like her cousin's going to get him. And it's like, oh yeah, she's like, and he's like, I fought in your cousin before, you know, in the future. He's fast, but I'm faster. Which once again, that turns into that whole situation of like, well, did you where, like, that's the thing you don't know. Like, does Superman actually exist on this earth and we're just not talking about him, or what? I mean, because there's that whole line from season 1 of Legends that's kind of made it imply that Savage was like, I've seen Man of Steel fall. I've seen, what was it? I've seen Dark Knight's rise, and I've seen Man of Steel fall, I think is what the line was. So that's kind of referencing that even on this earth, like Batman and Superman are an established thing. But the fact is that Eobard said that, and especially because this is Earth 1 Eobard, it kind of brings into that whole question like, wait, what? How does that work? So not unless it's him referencing, I doubt it's him referencing the fact that he's been to a different Earth, even though we see that he does screw around with different Earths too. So, but nevertheless, I don't know. Those just kind of, it's one of those things that's kind of like, I'm overthinking it, I know, but still. Overall, a great episode. I love the development of everything. Obviously, like, it's just kind of like startup for what goes down in the Legends aspects of the crossover. So obviously, let's just kind of move right on into that. And now moving on to the Legends part of the crossover, the conclusion. Fantastic way to end it off, top to bottom. God, like, I might as well get it out of the way. The most depressing aspect of the episode, Stein dying. I didn't see that coming. There was a part of me thinking, like, I'm sure I was like thinking to myself, people might have a problem with the fact that, well, it's this crossover, but there's no stakes. It's like, no, there's stakes. They made sure to answer that. It's like, no one's walking away from this 100% unscarred, and Stein ends up dying. He dies so that he can make sure that Jack stays alive. And it's like, dude, that's so heart-wrenching. I literally was about to cry every time. It's like Stein and like Jack's final moment is like, let me do this for you. We're like, you know, I'm like a father to you. Like, what kind of father wouldn't do this for his son, making a sacrifice like that? I'm like, no. I was like, come on, somebody find a different way. Someone fix this, please. And it's just like he takes the serum to kind of sever their connection, because their connection is making it so that Jax is keeping Stein alive, but at the same time Stein is killing Jax. And it's like, dude, that sucks. And then like having to like explain that to Clarissa and Lily, it's just so heartbreaking seeing them all break down like that. I'm like, dude, no. It's like, have you had this plan from the beginning? It's like, it's like, how long have they had this plan since like the very beginning? Like, because it makes that whole situation even sadder. It's like, oh, him wanting to leave and be there for his family. It's like, he won't get that chance. It's like, no. I was like, that sucks so much, dude. Especially because, you know, Jax too, that's got to hit doubly hard, because you're losing not just like a father figure, you're losing your other half, dude. And it sucks. And you see it hit Sarah too, because this is the second time that she's lost someone under her command. Well, I mean, this is the third time in general she's lost somebody. First, she lost Laurel, then she lost Snart, and now she's lost Stein too. And just like, you know, this is part of her team, and for her, it's like she protects her entire team. And it's like, for her, you know, it hits her hard because it feels like maybe she failed or something, you know? And it just, that sucks big time. Just want to kind of get that out of the way because I was like, it's going to be a super bummer. I should have saved it for last, but I decided I just want to kind of get that out of the way. So we can only go up from here. I love so many good, fantastic moments in there. I mean, even from a sad point of view, that was a fantastic moment of just like getting you that heart-wrenching moment, like, why? Making you super sad. And just like I said, I was literally tearing up. I was like, no, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But oh God. Anyway, I love Kara being like, there's a situation where Ray and Felicity are getting her out of there, and Kara's like, oh, how do you two know each other? It's like, we used to date. And she's like, ooh, that's awkward. It's like, right, let's not forget that was a thing not too long ago, a couple seasons back. I also love the fact is that Ray, he only uses it a little bit. I mean, first of all, I love the fact is that the knife that like Eobard was trying to cut Kara with is like, oh, what's stopping? Oh, is someone stopping? It's like, I don't get it. And then it's like a small ray. And then also later on, he kind of boosts up his arm and makes it giant. He only used it that one time in the episode, but I don't care. Because, yeah, he subsequently hasn't used that since season 1. I think that was them showing off. It's like, oh, yeah, don't forget Ray can also do that, too. But, you know, it's probably harder for him and everything. Probably takes more energy or whatever. But that was just so interesting to me. That was just them showing off. He literally could have blasted a dude, but he, like, grows his arm and slams him against the wall. It's like you're literally just showing off at this point in time. So, yeah, so much amazing stuff goes down. Obviously, like, the biggest thing is the final confrontation. Oh, it's so good, dude. First of all, it's like a full-blown war. Everybody's fighting on the ground. You got this sick thing that Frost does in this episode. Like I said, every time we see more and more of Frost, she's always doing something else. It's like they're pulling everything out on the stops for her, which is so cool that she's got her, you know. I mean, because this time Caitlyn can participate in the fight and everything, because obviously last crossover, it's like, well, every time she used her power, she turned into a whole Killer Frost situation, so there's that. But now it's like, oh yeah. But the fact is that she like does an ice sliding type of thing, which is so interesting because immediately, I mean, well, obviously, you know, you cross the Marvel thing and you're like, well, Iceman. But mainly it's also interesting because I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but it's very similar to Captain Cold in Injustice 2. He uses, that's his super. It's like sliding around on ice like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That's where immediately my brain went. I was like, was that supposed to be a reference to that? Or is that just like, or just me overanalyzing and overthinking that? But nevertheless, you just get everyone coming together in this situation. You got like Ray in the, well, like Ray, not like Adam Ray, like up in the sky. Also, like the fact is you see Curtis like throwing one of his T-spears and you have Ray on top. It's just like, dude, that's so sick. And then probably easily one of my favorite parts, just because like I'm nerding out so hard, is the freaking speedster fight. It's like, they're so cool because it's like, you see the moment everything freezes. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, what are you doing? And then you have Eobard and like Barry going at it. I'm like, oh, that's so sick. Everything's literally frozen because they're moving so damn fast. Oh my god, and just speeding around everywhere. And it's, oh my god, that's so freaking good. Sadly, Eobard gets away because Barry can't kill him. Just because it's just not in his code, that's not him. It's like, of course you're going to walk away from this, because it's like, we're not, you know, because like every attempt to kill him anyway has failed. Like, once again, like I still go by what I brought up before. It's like, it has to be a situation, like that basically the Spear of Destiny thing in season 2 of, Legends kind of wiped the slate clean. So basically what he did then doesn't exist. So maybe like that version of him that eventually from whatever time, you know, because I feel like that would have been like, because that was him pulling himself from so many different points in time. It's like, how are you not dead? Like, especially after that, why hasn't the whole situation, why didn't the thing with Eddie kill you? It's like, how do you fight that? You know? Like, not less the whole Spear of Destiny killing him thing actually reset his time or something, or reset him. It's like, because you shouldn't be able to outrun that. I mean, he did for a long period of time. That was the whole point of his Legion of Doom creation in season 2 of Legends. But I don't know. I'm still befuddled by that. Like, maybe we'll see that more going forward, especially when Eobard was like, oh, I can't wait till, you know, what face will I wear the next time. Immediately my brain thinks of something. I'm like, I mean, you don't think, like, immediately the first face I think of is like, you don't think he's going to come back looking like Eddie, do you? Just to kind of complicate things. I mean, that's a possibility. Because the fact is, that sounded so sinister, being like, oh, do you know what face I'm going to come back at you next time? So it's like, huh. That's where immediately my brain goes. Obviously, you have Amaya, Zari, and Frost like jumping onto the ship. Like I love that she like literally is sliding up into like the Earth X Wave Rider, and you have Cisco like breaching over to kind of get them out of there. You have Kara and other Kara duking it out like laser beat like heat vision towards each other and they're spinning. It's just like, oh, it's so good. It's like you can't help but lose your shit because like it's so nerdy, that is so good. Like everyone's fighting together. Oh gosh. Then you had Earth X Kara going supernova like she did. Kara getting her as high up. Notice she didn't go completely in outer space. I was about to say, are you about to do that? But the explosion knocked her back. But it was like, I guess she needed to get high enough in the atmosphere because like that's something I literally brought up too during this whole crossover thing. Like probably during Supergirl or maybe during the Arrow part. But nevertheless, it's like still not sure about why that's a thing. But once again, like I said, maybe that's just to kind of make it so that her and Clark aren't too like superhuman, like that they have limitations. So then, well, I mean, godlike is what I mean. Like typically how they are being super OP in most fiction, especially when it comes to comic books and stuff like. Nevertheless, I also love the fact is that two lines, one from Harry being like, "Kara, you got to go, you got to get her away, you got to get her up." And the way I'm like, shut up with your little references. And also the fact is when Kara fell, I was like, oh man, it's like Barry gonna race, is she gonna land? I was like, oh, I thought someone was gonna catch her. And it's like, oh, Nate called her. I was like, that's so cool. And she's like, how did he's like, you know, you're the girl of steel. I figured it was gonna take a man of steel to do. I'm like, that's so cool. That's awesome, dude. Also the fact is Zari got a new costume in this crossover too. I was like, I love it. Was a crossover last year? The crossover last year wasn't the first time Nate had his suit on, was it? I don't think it was. I think like he got it like literally the episode before the crossover, but it wasn't until the crossover that he finally put it on. I think that's how that worked. Oh, that's kind of interesting to me. I think so, not unless I'm remembering that wrong. But nevertheless, overall, like obviously, I was almost halfway expecting Oliver to let Earth X Oliver live. Turns out not to be the case. Ended up killing him. I was like, oh, I thought you were going to send him back to Earth X to kind of face judgment. But it's like, he's like, I'm going to kill you. But it's like, Oliver puts him down. It's like, well, Oliver promised to kill him. And it's like, well, he kept his promise. So two of the bad guys are dead. I mean, to be fair, Earth 1. I mean, each situation was handled differently because I'm sure Kara wasn't going to kill herself because she's not all about killing. The only one that kills is Oliver, sadly. So, I'm almost completely forgetting the fact is there had that moment at when they were fighting Metello, and you had like Dinah being like, "Oh my god, this thing is almost like a Terminator." You had Cisco laughing. She's like, "Why are you laughing?" He's like, "Oh, it's a love of pop culture reference in a time of crisis," and then everyone coming together to kill it, like everyone attacking at the same time. It's like, yes, poor Metello. I'd almost let that slip my mind. That was so good. And like, oh. Especially because like this is very different because like when it was the Dominators, everyone was just standing there, but this time like you had everyone just walking slowly through battle, and then everyone runs forward and just goes all out. Oh, it's so good. It does make you wonder about the whole Earth X situation. I mean, things should get better, especially because they've lost their two leaders. Obviously, Oliver's gone, Kara's gone, Eobard's probably most likely going to stay on this Earth because that kind of made. Still not 100% sure what you were really aiming for exactly. Once again, he needed a strong force to come to Earth. I'm sure he probably suggested Earth 1 in particular. Just because in this whole situation, he can go ahead and get his revenge on Barry. Like I said, like for him, it doesn't matter. I'll join up with whoever. As long as he gets to kill Barry, he doesn't care. I also think that this must be like Eobard. I wonder if it's the Eobard that Barry... No, it's definitely a different Eobard. I mean, I would assume. Than the one that he pulled into Flashpoint. Because that Eobard was the Eobard that killed his mom from that point in time, so... He even referenced it, I can't remember if that was in the Flash part or this part, but he's referencing the fact is, it was definitely in the Flash part about being in the whole situation of like, living in that lie. He's like, I built all this for 15 years and he couldn't stand it. Like, you know, just... Because it also meant working with a person he hated. It meant going about creating a man that he hated the most, even working beside him and just not being able to be himself. It just like, had to be Wells instead of being Eobard, you know, so... the fact of the matter is you had Mick meeting the other Snart. And it's like, oh yeah, like my Mick, rest his soul. He went in there saving all those cops. And you have Mick being like, he died saving cops. It's like, I'm disgusted. It's like, wow. So, which was making me wonder is like, was he a cop in the other world? I mean, it's supposed to just represent the fact is that he was a good guy in the other world, showing you just how very different they are, which, I'm very interested in seeing that going forward because Leo is staying behind. So what that means going forward between him and, because obviously he's filling the role of Stein, like they're one man down and Leo decided to kind of stay behind. So it's going to be interesting having Snart on the team again. It's going to be a little weird, especially because this Snart isn't the Snart that they know. So so the cool thing is too that we're going to get an opportunity to really get to know this Snart, see like who he is. He seems like a very honorable dude. I did love the fact is that, during the flash parts, he was just commenting, he's like, oh my god, like look at your costume, it's so cool. Did you design it yourself? I love that comment, dude. That has to be rough for Mick too, because for Mick it's like, well, there's the whole situation last season when he was like seeing ghosts of Snart, and then the whole Snart joining the Legion of Doom thing, so that's gotta be a little rough, because it's like, but now he's kind of got his friend back, but at the same time he's like, well, you're not Snart, you're not Leonard, you're Leo, so obviously that's differentiated in his mind. So, but when it was all said and done, the Earthless say, I'm wondering, did they do the thing of wiping everyone's memories? Because it's like that's two airships flying. Like things get crazy in Central City, but not that crazy. I mean, does everyone remember? Well, yeah, because I forgot they didn't have the devices last season when they could wipe people's memories. That's only because of the Time Bureau and everything. So I wonder, is it going to happen where the Time Bureau is like, yeah, we helped clean up that mess you left behind. It's like, dude, what do you want us to do? There were like evil versions of us from a different world coming to cause problems. Like, what do you expect us to do? You know, so Alex and Sarah said their goodbyes, and I love Mick being like, did you hit that? And she slapped him across the head. I'm like, ah. No tact whatsoever. So Legends went off on their own. I'm curious what that does mean for Jax going forward. Like, is he 100% Firestorm by himself now? Like, what does that mean for him? Like, I guess we'll really have to wait till the next episode to really kind of dive into that. Obviously, we walk away with this situation of Kara and Alex going back. Not the most favorable situation. Came for a wedding and things kind of went out of control. But they kind of both put it. The fact is that it put things in perspective for both Alex and Kara with their respective situations. So especially Alex, like she's like, no, I don't want to go back to Maggie because that's going to get. You know, it's like I made this decision and it was the right decision. I need to trust my gut on it and everything. Then you have Barry and Iris just kind of getting to, like, you know, Diggle to be there to ordain their, he was ordained, so he's the one that can get them married, which I love. Barry rushes over and gets him. He's like, oh, don't, see, I didn't throw up this, and throws up. I'm like, oh, poor Diggle. Especially in the condition Diggle's in, too. And he's like, sorry. He's like, just give me some warning next time. It's just like, I just love that happened. I was like, poor Diggle. It's almost funny too, because you almost have like Felicity and Oliver kind of shitting on Barry and Iris's moment too, because it's like, no, wait, and it's like, well, let's get married now. It's like, oh, okay, do you renew your vows? It's like, no. I mean, it's like, well, Barry and Iris had their whole vows, and it's almost like, why even try? Once again, it's like they're the golden couple, because even they talked about it when they were in their therapy this season. Like, well, I mean, you know, we're Barry and Iris. It's like, what? Yeah, it's like, what? It's like you're the golden couple. So it's just so interesting to me. It's like, why do we even try? Obviously said what they needed to say. So, both of them getting married. It's like, dude, it's amazing. I'm sure like everyone's going to be a little upset. It's like, well, you kind of did it behind our backs. I mean, granted, we went through the ceremony and everything, but still, I mean, hey, it's official. Everyone's together. So, hey, I guess it's a happy ending in that regard. So, like, overall, from top to bottom, such a good crossover. It's like, dude, like, these are so good. To me, they get better and better with each year. And the question is also, it brings up the question of, like, what will they do to top this next year? Especially considering the fact is that starting in January, apparently, didn't know it was going to be that soon, but Black Lightning starts. I knew it was going to be in 2018, but once again, still don't know where that stands, like, on the whole crossover situation, because it's like I said, my understanding is that taking place on a different Earth, but then again, that, you know, his whole, because he's a metahuman, so maybe it's a situation of him getting his powers a different way than all of the metas in Central City, you know, so maybe that's what that's all about. I mean, to be fair, you know, there are metas on Earth 38 as well, so that's kind of a particular situation on its own. So I think the Flash has got its own metahumans for a particular reason. Like everything else is kind of like other reasons, you know. But nevertheless, from top to bottom, so good. Like I said, they did bring weight to this, being like, you thought like, oh, like everything was fine last time, thought everything was gonna be fine this time. It's like, no, like it sucks that was going. Because I was legitimately surprised. I was like, they're not gonna kill anyone. I was like, because I was certain, I was like, they're not gonna kill anyone. This is a crossover. Ain't no way they're gonna kill off Care. Oh, they killed off Stein. Wow, that's crazy, dude. Especially because of the whole time thing. It's not like they can go back in time and save him because, I mean, for one, that was on a different Earth. Well, no. I mean, because it'd be interfering with his time. It's like they've already interfered with their time enough to kind of cause the current problem they're in right now. So they definitely can't be doing that again. So that shocked me. Like I said, it left me brokenhearted, that whole situation. So, next week, all across the board are the mid-season finales for all shows: Supergirl, Flash, Legends, and Arrow. Caught a little sneak preview of it. Apparently, if you go on the CW app, or I think it's just the app, or maybe the website, I don't know, like you can basically see all the previews early. So just, you know, like you typically would at the end of the episodes. But nevertheless, obviously I'm not going to, just because I'm me. But the tiny bit I did see, I'm very interested in see what goes down in the next episode. Obviously, we're going to be continuing where these stories have brought us so far, as well as also picking up where each story kind of technically left off with each respective shows to a certain regard, if you get what I mean. Because it's like, obviously, like, this is canon, but all the stuff, like, obviously certain storylines kind of got left behind a little bit because it's like, oh, those are safe for the specific shows and they're not 100% involved in a whole crossover thing. So that's super confusing. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy the crossover as much as I did. I really liked it. I really loved it. In fact, I'm very interested to see what they do, next year, because like I said, it does seem like it is going to be a yearly thing, a big crossover. I mean, the fact of the matter is that doesn't mean we're not going to have smaller crossovers here and there, so still excited to see those as they happen, you know. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.